Hey guys, welcome back to the channel, and please welcome for the first time ever, Stephanie Thompson.
Hey guys, I'm super excited to be here, super excited about the topic that we're talking about today, so can't wait to get into it.
Stephanie, you want to tell them a little bit about yourself and then what you do and introduce the video for us?
Sure, so like he said, my name's Stephanie. Michael and I have been married for coming up on 4 years at the time that this video is being filmed, and that's my favorite part about life, is getting to be married to Michael Thompson. And I also get to serve in church with him as one of the middle school leaders, and that's a really fun part of my life. I also am helping start up a company called Lawn Care Launch, and so that's another big part that takes up a lot of time and that I really enjoy, that I would consider my career. And as we talk about the topic of this video, we might get into a little bit more of that, but overall, I'm super excited to be here. And yeah, the topic today is how we plan out our next year of life, and a big part of that is actually looking back on the previous year. So Michael, do you want to tell them what we get into?
We basically have several different categories. It's like 10, but we just picked 6 for this video. And what we'll do is we'll talk about fitness, and these are in no order from most or least important, but we'll talk about fitness and like personal growth, spiritual, and what we'll do is we'll just say, here's how we feel like a little bit about what we did this year, and then what our plan is for next year. And what we notice is it just makes a huge difference writing these things down. And then if you're like me, you write it down, and 1 year you come back, you're like, man, it's the same exact stuff. I'm just doing the same thing. Yeah, for some of them. So the first one is fitness.
Yeah.
Stephanie, how was your 2025 in fitness, and then what do you want to do in 2026?
Yeah, so for fitness, I put that I'm noticing a very big tendency now that we've done this for a couple of years. My tendency in fitness is to go really strong through the beginning of the year, through the summer, but then come October time, I'm like ready for the holidays. I had just completed like a fitness event or something, like some sort of competition. And so after that, I'm like, okay, I can give myself a break. So I'm noticing that I do pretty good, but then October, November, December hits and it's not as strong. And depending on the summer too, if there's a lot of traveling, that can really hinder me. So one of the things that I really like about doing these month reviews and even looking at it from the year perspective is just noticing these tendencies in the first place. Because if we didn't write these things down and come back to them and see them, I promise you I would not notice this from just a going day to day through life kind of thing. So what I said for 2026 is I really want to focus on hydration. So making sure I'm drinking plenty of water throughout the day. So I have very specific goals that I'm trying to meet with that and ways to measure those goals. Michael's done plenty of videos about setting goals and how they need to be SMART goals so that you can actually achieve them and you can measure them. And then another thing that I'm really wanting to work on is getting my intensity of workouts up higher. So I'm in a kind of like a run club thing this year where we have to do 6 miles each week. Michael's in that too. And I want to do some more HIIT workouts and that sort of thing. So that's my fitness area. How about you?
Yeah, mine was pretty good this year. I stayed, so like in the past, I've pretty much always had a consistent gym routine. This is probably like my 6th year of that, but it doesn't mean, because I tend to just go through the motions. And one thing that I did well this year was I weighed myself a lot, and I set a goal that I wanted to be 150 pounds. I eventually got to that goal. Just for context, I've been up to like 170 since we've been married, and there's sometimes I just know that I'm not as disciplined. So I wanted to be that weight, and I stayed that weight pretty consistent all year. But the way that I did that was skipping a lot of meals. And looking back, I lost a lot of muscle because I did that, and I still got the weight. But I noticed there's a big difference between me weighing a certain weight and weighing a lightweight because I'm running and lifting versus weighing a lightweight because I'm just skipping meals. I just noticed the density and the muscle and stuff isn't nearly as good. So this year for fitness, yeah, I want to run consistently, and we do a pretty good job of eating pretty decent around the house. But I also noticed there's certain times a year where my fitness goes up and down. March, April, May, and February are so easy to be consistent. And then the summer, we do a lot of trips for church, so that throws it off a little bit. So yeah, this year, I wanna just run all year long, still stay that same weight, and then push it in the gym, continue pushing with the weights. The next area, personal growth. Stephanie, how was your year in personal growth?
So one of my favorite things that I did this past year when it comes to my personal growth is I kept a little note in my Google Keep app where anytime I heard a quote or had a thought that I thought was really powerful or that I wanted to go back and reference again in the future, I put that note down in that note app to where now I can go back through all of my months of January through December in 2025 and look at what stuck out to me in those months. What books did I read that I really gained something from? What thoughts did I have or ideas did I have that I want to think about or do more with in the future? That was one of my favorite things that I did that I'm absolutely planning to continue in 2026. And the other thing in personal growth was just reading. I'm really gonna try to focus on doing 3 books each month in 3 different areas, and those areas might change each month, but it worked really well for me at the end of 2025, and I wanna try to keep that up in 2026. How about you?
Nice. Yeah, I think personal growth, I remember that note that you had. There's a lot of different times where you're like, oh, that reminds me of this, and I think there were a couple conversations because of that note you were keeping. They really sparked the conversation, and that was kind of cool. For me, personal growth, I noticed with my school, when it really increases, my personal growth goes down. What I consider personal growth for me is maintaining certain habits. Like I have a Greek and Hebrew video that I watch every day when I'm doing my personal growth. So it was only half of the year this year because I don't want to lose the language. And that's a language that I studied for Bible college basically. But my personal growth was not where I wanted it to be this year. And I always notice it's when there's a lot of unknowns. There was a lot of new positions with my job this year that not my position was new, but I was helping other people in new positions, and I wasn't reading as much as I wanted to be reading. So as I got really busy, the growing in other areas other than school and work kind of went down. So I definitely grew this year, but I want to read more next year, and that's kind of mostly for me, personal growth, reading and habits. I want to stick to both those a lot more consistent next year, and I know that I'm going to get busy, so having a plan. And we've talked about this, a morning routine.
Yeah.
I have a routine, but specifically a morning one. I want to have a plan that I stick with all year, even when it gets busy. So when our church events come up that are super busy, I still want to, stick with it. So the third area is spiritual. Do you want me to go first this time?
Yeah, you should go first this time.
Okay. I noticed that this year I did a lot more of devotions like in the afternoons and during different times during the day than in the past. Usually I did devotions in the morning first thing. There's a lot of biblical patterns of Jesus doing devotions first thing in the morning, and I noticed it was less consistent than in other years. So I think that I definitely grew spiritually this year, and I definitely was consistent when it comes to being in church, but then on the personal devotion side, not doing it in the morning was, there were some times where it was really consistent, but then whenever we were traveling, that really made it difficult. Not having the morning routine plus traveling and having different places that we were. I feel like did we travel more this year? I feel like it wasn't like a bunch of vacations, but just different trips that we did for work and for school, another work trip than normal.
Yeah.
So the next year I want to stick to doing devotions in the morning. And even though I still there were times where I was doing really well spiritually and I wasn't doing devotions in the morning, I want to stick to that next year.
Cool. For me, the biggest game changer in 2025 for my devotions was incorporating the audio Bible along with my reading my physical Bible. So I use this app called Dwell, and it's a very affordable, I think, yearly subscription. And I pay it because I want to support the company, even if I didn't use it, but I do use it on a regular basis. They have different plans you can sign up for. And so I got on a, New Testament plan. And I was basically able to go day by day with listening to the scripture as I read it. And I don't know if anyone else struggles with this out there, but I was so bad with the reading scripture, but then going back and being like, what did I just read? And so listening to it alongside reading it in my physical Bible has been a game changer. And that's what I'm planning to continue to do in 2026 to help me stay consistent, because it's also a super convenient way of being able to check off the plan that you're reading through with also still being able to do it in your physical Bible. So that was my favorite part about how I grew spiritually and being more consistent with devotions in 2026, in 2025. And that's what I want to continue to do because it helped me stay so consistent. So here we go, 2026.
Yeah, good thing, because whenever I heard another man's voice in the morning, it was the Dwell app. It was the Bible. It wasn't actually somebody. The next area is finances. Stephanie, talk to us about finances.
You know what I put for finances?
I'm really, really curious about this.
I said amazing because of Michael. So thank you, Michael.
We did good with budgeting.
Yes, so Michael, for context and why I put that, we were sitting on the couch as we were doing this together, and Michael goes, all right, finances. And I was like, I said exactly what I just said. I was like, it's amazing because of you. And basically, Michael is the one who I'm very thankful, but he handles all the finances in our home, so you can tell them a little bit more about what we did. But that's why I put that, and I'm very thankful, so thank you.
Yeah, basically, for context, about a year and a half ago, when we got married, we were both still in college, and we have done a good job keeping our expenses low. And then as our income has gone up, our expenses haven't gone up other than for school. But we just view that as accountability to invest in our brains. And even if we don't have jobs directly tied to what we were learning, we just feel like we're developing as people.
Yeah.
So we have spent a lot of money on school. But overall, we saved like we planned to save this year, and that was good. We gave, and that's really cool to see. When you give every single month to your church or to other people, we give to a couple missionaries. We also give to our church and friends. So that was really, really cool. I think that, oh yeah, this is what I'm gonna say. For finances, about a year and a half ago, we were looking at the budget and we were not saving money and we were spending a lot more money than was coming in. And we just kind of had to talk about that. And we still had a budget, but we weren't really following it. So we added, basically what happened was we added a weekly time where we just talked about what we spent, and then over time we didn't really have to talk every week about it. But essentially the last year and a half we've actually done what we planned to do with saving, and it feels really good. And it feels good watching the money get invested and be given in different areas. So
yeah, and finances is such a huge issue in a lot of marriages because both aren't willing to work on just creating a budget. And hopefully you guys have heard this before, but if you haven't, setting a budget actually frees you from the arguments that you might have in a marriage, and also to be able to spend the money where it needs to be spent, and then to save it when it needs to be saved. So have you done a video on budgeting before?
I think so.
Okay, so if he has, we'll link that right up here. Highly recommend you guys getting on a budget because it sounds so dramatic, but it truly is life-changing.
Yeah.
So.
And if you're a married couple, it's your money together. Don't have two different checking accounts. That's a huge, huge thing. It's not her money, my money. The next area is church, number 5.
All right, church. I love going to church. I love getting to serve with 8th grade girls. If you go to church and you're not serving somewhere, you should consider serving somewhere because that's truly where my community is. I have a community with the other leaders, and getting to pour into the younger girls gives you someone to think about other than yourself. So you're not trying to just fix yourself all the time. You are able to pour into someone else. So when it comes to church this year, I was really focusing on wanting to build relationships with the other leaders that I serve with, and doing that on top of obviously, wanting to serve the 8th grade girls. So just wanting to grow in that in 2026 and continue down that path.
Church is funny for me because I work at a church, but I try to think about how do I do with spiritual things that aren't tied to my job. And so that's always something that as a pastor, it's kind of tricky because your spiritual life is tied to what you do for work. But I remember before I was a pastor, I was just a Christian, and I taught in the student ministry because I wanted to be used by God. It wasn't to be a pastor. But then you can, when you do that for work, ambition and drive and all that stuff can get mixed in. And at the end of the day, I just want to really be a servant. So I feel like I did okay this year. There were times where I'm a little more driven, other times where a little less servant, but I feel like I could point to a few different times where I really went out of my way to serve and outside of my normal responsibilities, be helpful to people. It's not me as a pastor, it's me just as a Christian. And
awesome.
So I would say I did okay in that area. Could do a little bit better next year.
Cool.
The last one, career/YouTube.
Yes, so we broke this out because church is his career, whereas I do kind of have another job outside of church, and then he just kind of replaced that with YouTube. So for me, 2025 was a huge year because it's when I actually started, alongside 3 other people, this business that I told you about at the beginning called Lawn Care Launch. So we help lawn care business owners grow their business. And so 2025 was huge in that way. I look back with just such gratitude to the people who allowed me to come in on this project and to how far we've come already. When it comes to 2026 in my career, I'm really focusing on building systems and streamlined systems to where we can have other people come in, we can hire people and train them efficiently so that they know exactly what they're doing and what we need them to do, and can really take ownership over what they're doing. So that's my focus in Lawn Care Launch as we go into 2026, is streamlining systems to create an incredible customer experience, and I'm really excited about it.
Yeah, and she does did you say you do the marketing? Somebody else does the mentorship? Someone else does the money?
We help them in 3 different areas: marketing, mentorship, and financial management. So I am over the marketing product or service, for lack of a better term. And then we have a couple that they had a previous business, they're over the financial management, and then we've got a guy who's been in the industry for 40 years who's over that mentorship portion. So really trying to build up that marketing department is my goal in 2026.
Very cool. For me, YouTube, now this is really interesting because this is on YouTube and I'm talking to YouTube. I think that for my current stage of life, YouTube, I posted consistently when I was just thinking about ways to continue to grow myself with like personal development, and we were talking, and it was like 2.5 years ago, and I concluded we want to start this channel, but I didn't really know how consistent I could post, but I didn't want to overdo it. And the last 2 years, we've never missed a week, posted bi-weekly every single week for 2 years. And I would say overall, I'm really happy with looking back when I started and what we were doing then to what we're doing now. It's really encouraging. I do feel like I know what to do to grow the channel, but it would pull too much from my ministry and my school and some of the people that I have close friendships with. So in this season, I think I know how to scale it. I know how to scale it more than I am now, but I think the healthiest thing is just to continue to commit to bi-weekly. I think for context, the way to scale it would be to post weekly and do a lot more shorts. But I'm already putting a decent amount of time into it, and down the road I plan to do that, but in the meantime, just continue posting consistently. And one other thing we talked about earlier was this year we want to have more people over and be a little more intentional by the month with our calendar. So that was something that we did okay at last year and want to do more this year.
And on the YouTube thing, we reached 200 subscribers this year.
That is
so
true.
That's a good milestone to hit. That was exciting. On December 31st, we got our 200.
Yep,
that was really fun. And it's going to be so cool to, hopefully look back and see, wow, we were excited about 200 people. And, hopefully, Lord willing, it'll be even more in the future. So that was fun. But yeah, on the calendar thing, after we look back at our year and kind of try to set goals for the next year, which after we go through that whole thing, I kind of distilled my main goals into like very specific ones that I can keep track of and look back on in my month reviews for 2026. But we also try to take a second and sit down and look at our calendar and do what trips are coming up this year?
Yeah.
When are the busy seasons gonna be that we know we are not going to have nearly as much time to do projects or maybe to go on date nights? And then also, when do we want to have people over, and being super intentional about that we really try to do on a monthly basis, or at least we're going to shoot for that in 2026. But that's one of my favorite parts, is just looking at the year and being like, wow, there's, Lord willing, there's so much in store, and we'll see what ends up happening, but we can do our best to be planned ahead and to be intentional with the time that's coming up and with the slower seasons that we have versus the busier seasons. So
Steph, why don't you give us your top 3 productivity tools for 2026?
Okay. First of all, month reviews. Should I explain what that is really quick?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, month reviews are basically what we just did, but a very shortened version. So it's looking at the month and saying, how did I do in each of these areas? And I actually also built out a template for myself that's going to ask myself very specific questions about the yearly goals that I set. So for example, how did you execute on your yearly goals? My hydration plan, my workout plan, and my morning routine. And so every month I'm looking back onto my yearly goals. Second thing is Ideal Week Calendar. If you have not watched Michael's video on Ideal Week Calendar, you should go watch it. It's basically planning out what do you want your life to look like, and then how closely can you follow that. That's another thing you can review in your month reviews and adjust to depending on how life ends up going. The third one is morning routine. Getting a solid morning routine is going to be something I'm really focusing on 2026, because you get way more done when you have a solid morning routine.
Yeah, morning routine's definitely, it's catchy, and some of these things are really trendy, but I've had a morning routine for seasons, and I've not had one, and it's just, you can kind of loop everything you need to be working on into that routine, and it's just like time you're working on yourself, and it's like first thing in the morning. Wrap it up with devotions, or start it with devotions, and it's a good thing. Guys, hope you enjoyed this video. Stephanie, thank you for coming on.
It was fun.
Talking about what we're gonna do next year than what we did last year. If you guys haven't seen the Ideal Week video, click it above. See you in the next one.